your story empower your life. Join me as I speak to many people around the globe and understand how the empowerment of their story led to the transformation of their life. My name is Rochelle Harlington, and this is the Transformational Soul Talks. Hi, and welcome to the Transformational Soul Talks. I am Rochelle, and I have a question for you. With all the chaos going on in the world, and you're looking to sort of recognize what is not serving you and then be able to rewrite it and then realign it for a better feeling and success in your life, well, definitely check out my 777 program on my website, rochelleharlington.ca. 7 ways to expand in 7 steps in 7 days. And you just basically go to the website, drop your email in, and we will send it to you. And coming in later March, I am going to be adding to that my 777 journal. And by the way, the program is free to download. And then the journal will be paired with that amazing program. It's an audio series, and it is incredible. It will really help you recognize what is not serving you. It'll help you rewrite the stories that are no longer serving you and then realign with your success. So, speaking of success, let's definitely dive into this episode. Now, a lot of times we're sitting there and we're thinking, are we aligned with what's going on? Is this aligned with our success? Is this aligned with what we want to see? And sometimes we think, should I be doing this? This is perfect. And we call it divine timing. Well, if you're curious about what divine timing is all about, then definitely stay for this episode. My guest today is an Akashic Records guide, soul expression activator, shamanic mystic artist, published author, and intuitive channel of dragon energy. Her art has appeared in galleries and exhibitions across her home state of New York and graced the covers of magazines and found homes in the hearts of art enthusiasts worldwide. Her mission is to awaken the spark of creativity in all beings through her unique magic, drawing on the intuitive combination of breathwork, meditation, movement, artistic activation to guide clients toward their highest purpose and most authentic self. She has co-authored 2 books, including a collaborative work that intertwined art, channeled messages, and wisdom codes, aimed at supporting individuals on their journey of self-discovery and healing. With playfulness and humor, she demystifies artistic expression, reframing each individual's artistic blueprint as a potent medicine, both for them and for the collective. So I want to offer a beautiful warm welcome to my wonderful guest, Dina Fortune. Welcome.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm so grateful to
And she's
be
got all her beautiful art in the background. I love it. I love it. I love it.
here.
So let's just dive in. Let's talk a little bit about divine timing. When you hear that, or somebody hears that, they may think, well, what does that mean? What does divine timing mean? Maybe you could dive a little bit into that and explain it for our listeners today.
Well, I really look at divine timing as like the divine orchestration of things lining up to happen just at the right time. So, like a series of synchronicities that let you know, yes, this is a yes. This is like the breadcrumbs that led me to this now moment that this thing is happening right now because it's meant to happen now.
Mhm.
And like when you and I met, like, I mean, that was a perfect example of divine timing.
Mm.
So, and like how can we give the example of that really
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, absolutely.
example? Well, it's funny because I mean, we both had our own intentions, our own life going on, and doing our own work, our own healing, our own magical self-assessments, but we both wound up tuning in on the same day to the same
Mhm.
networking Zoom call of a woman that we both know on that day. And all the other days, we didn't say yes, but on that day, we said yes. We were both pulled to be on that same networking event, and we both like were aligned to like both be like, hey, I want to talk to you more, and I want to talk to you more. Like our energies were aligned, and the timing for us to meet was aligned. It was just so aligned that like that was the beginning of us really going on a journey, really. And then that led to that book that you just mentioned in the bio. And
Hmm.
and even like the timing, like, everything happening exactly at the most magical, potent, yummy feeling time.
I love that. I love the yummy feeling time. And for our listeners, sometimes they may say, well, hold on. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing this, but then there's a little bit of resistance. And I'm not sure, but I really feel good about this, but there's a little bit of issues. Issues keep coming up. So what would you say to that?
That is where really discernment's got to come in, because like learning about, what is a yes and what is a yes, but not now.
Mm.
And because it could be yes, because we have multiple timelines that are happening, and there could be where like in one timeline, not everything is shifting and you may want that thing, but it might not be at the aligned time, but it also could be an opportunity to feel into why are you having resistance? And is it resistance because it's something so big and so life-changing that you're a little scared of saying yes? Or is the resistance coming up because like you want it, but you also know that it's not quite the divine time?
Mm. Yes. And I think that that's a good point because sometimes, you'll be so excited about something, but then it doesn't quite seem to flow with what you want, and you're thinking, I wonder if I should be doing this or if I should not be doing this. And that can be, would you say that could be in any realm?
Oh yeah, I really feel like in any realm, because sometimes we want something so bad that we'll like gloss over any like red flags. So I feel like it's important to look at like in every realm, meaning like in work, in play, in relationships, where I feel like even just like being with a person, like I've heard of stories where, a person will meet what they feel is their soulmate,
Hmm.
and but neither one are really aligned and ready emotionally, like to really be with each other at that time. So that's not really divine time. It might be like the on the ego time.
Mm.
And then there'll be so many, there could be so many challenges because they're not listening to the the cues that they're getting to saying.
Yeah. And I think that's also a big part of transformation as well, is listening to those cues, paying attention if you're in alignment, feeling good about those things, to understand the divine timing. I mean, even, and I'm going to get a little bit sort of away so much from the personal, but even just for my country, where I live in Canada, divine timing slightly. I mean, all that crazy stuff that went on with your president in the United States and all the tariffs, our country was so separated. He did that. And all of a sudden, the country came together in such a way where we will only now buy Canadian. And in a bad way, I suppose it's against the United States. But divine timing, that separation of a country has in divine, with that happening, has now reversed it, and everybody is coming together. And I almost feel like that's divine timing because something had to happen in order to bring that energy back into the collective consciousness of the people, not to dislike each other, but to come together to support each other as a country, right? And this is not neither here nor there. I'm just sharing this example of how even a collective of millions of people can come together literally virally so quick.
Oh yeah, there's so many examples of that where certain things were meant to happen at a certain time for like kind of like a butterfly effect,
Hmm.
you know?
Transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even like something as simple as finding a movie at on a certain night and a certain time of your life where like the message of that movie is so poignant to what is happening in your time. And like never on
Mm.
any other day did you ever see that movie pop up. But for some reason it just popped up on your scroll, your feed, and it was like, yeah, like it was like a definite yes, like I'm gonna watch this. And you watch the movie and you're like, this made so much sense based on what's going on in my life. I really like this movie is exactly like time to for me to watch it right now because any other time it wouldn't have made sense.
Right. And I
Like it
think,
just did
yeah,
tonight,
I
last
think
night.
that would even go as far as to say that that makes sense, but even um, you know, oh, watching that movie, having the message there for you, or even hearing a song comes on that you're in that train of thought and that song comes on and kind of makes you sit there as you're listening to it and you're in the car and you're going, oh, that makes sense, right? Divine
Yeah.
timing because you needed to hear what was either in that movie, you needed to hear what was in that song. That's I feel is divine
Oh,
timing.
totally. Totally. And there's so many examples of where a song came on at like such a moment where it was like the words, the lyrics, the everything about that song was like, whoa. Like, how could, like, there's no other way to explain, other than like a divine orchestration, which is really what divine timing, I really feel is having to do with an orchestration of a series of events for things to happen a certain way that, the universe is like, hey, I got your back. Things are in alignment. Things, and when things are not moving so smoothly
I was going to
and
say that because I'm sure there's people on this who are listening to this saying, my life is crap. Nothing's showing up. Nothing's divine. Everything's going sideways. What would you say to them?
um I would say look back to finding things when you felt like things were going well in your life and
Mm,
looking at like what are some things that you can be grateful for, even if it's something that just to be able to lift your vibration, because sometimes like you can go in two ways. You can go in the way of what is this time trying to teach me? What
mhm,
am I meant to learn? Why am I listening to this podcast right now
mhm,
that could maybe get me to think about my life and what's going on and that everything's going to be okay because no matter what is going on, there's going to be something that comes in to help shift things.
mm,
Like there's always going to be something that no matter how hard things get, there's going to be glimmers of hope that will give you signs that you're not alone and the universe
I love
got
that.
your back. So I want to infuse, like, it's funny, divine timing today of all days. I got sent a video about certainty
Mm.
and it happened today. I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And it was a someone who studied
I love that.
and it was like the certainty that there's like always good in everything.
Mm.
And being able to know that, like, no matter what's going on, that there's something good happening in your life, and being able to connect into that certainty, and you're good because you're a spark, you're a
Mhm.
creation. So I feel like it's knowing, like, being able to tune into something that could help you lift your spirits to help you get back on that train of good
Mhm.
feeling thoughts and following the breadcrumbs. And I feel like that's kind of just listening to this, letting all this energy just, like, percolate.
I love that, percolate like coffee.
Yeah, right. I mean, I can go on and on ever, but I was gonna say that some of my biggest gifts have been my some of my hardest times.
Mm. And when did you start to transform and understand this divine timing? What was sort of the big catalyst for you?
Oh, you know what? I'll tell you, the thing that comes to my mind is I shortly after I came to realize that I was, like, having a lot of victim mindset, like I was
Mhm.
becoming aware that I was attracting a lot of people with negative, like, victim mindset.
Mhm.
Like, something's going on here. And I made a decision to start healing my mindset. And soon after that, like, all these things started to pop up into my life.
Mhm.
And people started to come out into my life. Some people started to leave my life. Like, so then in that time, I got introduced to Gene Keys. I was invited to go to an expo near me, a Mind Body Spirit Expo. It was the first one. Now she's done, like, I don't know, 10 so far since then. And I met these wonderful people that were teaching about human design and Gene Keys. And I got a reading, and it was like I had to be there that day. Like, the way that that happened that day at that time, it just brought me to tears of, like, the message that I received, that there was really nothing wrong with me. I was just going through a time of my life, and that there were
Mhm.
a lot of things about me, my blueprint, that I just didn't know yet. And that was the time to find out. So once I started to look into the gene keys and human design, and I found
Mhm.
out about all these things. One of them had to do with divine timing and finding my rhythm in my life and my
Mhm.
own time. And once I knew that, like, I don't have to go on other people's time. I got to find my own rhythm,
Yeah, exactly. I like that.
and it's all connected to divine time. So it
I
just
love it.
got me, that human design gene key thing just got me on a whole trajectory of getting to understand what my blueprint is and who am I really. And eventually, I'm here.
Right. So if someone is curious, what signs can they look out for? You know, divine timing is really becoming very common in people's lives, understanding that everything is divinely timed in order to shift you along your transformation and your journey. But if someone says, well, how will I know? What would you say to them, Dina?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind are numbers. Paying attention to numbers that you may see.
Mm,
Like, one set of numbers could be 1111 or 555. Um, there's certain numbers that maybe you start seeing a sequence of numbers that are repeating at least three times. And then you can look into, what are those numbers?
mhm.
And just starting to look at, like, so numbers is one sign, which I know you're very much an expert on numerology. Um, and the other thing was another way. I really feel like automatic writing, just getting into a practice of
Mm.
writing what's going on in your life, and then at some point, maybe every 2 weeks, look at what is happening in your writing. And so you can also look for, other signs, maybe a butterfly or a feather that you find on the floor. I feel like it's just, look for
Times. Yeah.
signs.
No, that they're absolutely. I've known lots of people that have had, signs and they've seen them dimes, feathers, all different
Signs. Okay.
dimes. Yes, I had a friend that literally would, she said I would go to bed and there would be no dimes and I'd wake up and there'd be two dimes sitting there at the bottom of my bed on the floor. She said, and that was her way of knowing that what she was going through was she was going to get to the end of it. It was divine timing for her to move on from that whatever she was going, which was a tough time in her life. I remember that specifically. So if they were interested in working with you or they want to connect with you who are listening to this, where can they find you and on what platforms?
Okay. So I am on Instagram as Solidina, Soulydina. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and those are the main ones right now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I can put all that information in the show notes, all your links and everything. And before we draw to a close, as it is divine timing, as it always is, because we started this podcast at 444 when we first came on, which was perfect divine timing. You and I always seem to end up with these synchronistic numbers. What would you like to share with our audience today if there was anything around divine timing?
Oh, I really feel like it comes down to trust the
Mhm.
inner voice. It always comes back to you. So if you keep listening and learning how to know your yeses and nos,
Yeah.
and knowing what is your yeses, your real yeses and then you can like really start to pay attention to your body and the response that you're getting. And I think that was one thing. And when in doubt, draw it out.
Oh, I like that. When in doubt, draw it out. Mm.
Get some scribbling, get a pen or pencil, get a piece of paper, and just like let yourself scribble and just see what happens. So, and you can do it with your non-dominant hand.
Why
And
would you say that? That's curious. I've never heard that before. Why would you say your non-dominant hand?
because your non-dominant hand represents your subconscious, and
Ah,
it'll basically be connected with your intuition. So you have less control over your
yes.
non-dominant hand. So if you look into neuroscience, there's a lot to be said about using in neuro arts, there's a lot to be said about using your non-dominant hand because it can express what's
Hmm.
kind of come through that's hidden, subconscious. And so that way, if you're using your subconscious hand, you can get scribbling and drawing of something that could be a clue for you uh to even get like a yes no answer, like is this divine time to do this, XYZ.
Hmm.
And if you use your non-dominant hand, you can also use that to pull a card as well. um
Okay.
so yeah, so getting in the practice of using your non-dominant hand so that you're not using your ego.
I like that. I've never heard that before, but that is definitely for anyone who's listening today, that is definitely something I'm going to be paying attention to because I did not know that. So thank you so much for sharing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Great, great, great insight. So I want to thank you for coming on today and sharing all your beautiful wisdom and your insight on divine timing. As always, Dina, you're such a beautiful soul. And thank you so much for coming on my show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure and an honor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.